Starting off my list, I've got the vehicles. We have a Nightwing, a Fire Prism, a Night Spinner, and a Warp Hunter. Warp Hunter has Holo Fields, Spirit Stones, and the Shuriken Cannon upgrade. Next we've got Dire Avengers for the first troop slot. The second troop slot are Pathfinders. Next we have our elites, starting off with Striking Scorpions that have an Exarch with Power Claw and Stalker. We have Howling Banshees with an Exarch who has an Executioner and Acrobatic and War Shout. There are the Fire Dragons with an Exarch who has a Fire Pike and Crack Shot. We have Shining Spears with an Exarch who has the Star Lance. Leading the unit is an Autarch with a Lance, a Reaper Launcher, and Manda Blasters. And finally, we're trying out the Shadow Specters again to see if they hold up against what's probably going to be a smaller, tougher army.
So this is my 2,000 point list, clocking at 1,998 points. I've got 2 HQs, Asserman and Uriel. I've got a squad of 10 Dire Avengers with an Exarch with a Dire Sword. My other troop units consist of 2 squads of Wraithguard, Spirit Seers, and Conceal. Squad of 10 Guardian Defenders with a Scatter Laser. And I've got 1 unit of Fast Attack. Warp Spiders, squad of 5 with a standard Exarch kit. I got a squad of Howling Banshees, 10 strong, Exarch with Mirror Swords. And in heavy support, I have Wraithlord with Eldar Missile Launcher and a Shuriken Cannon, and a Falcon with Scatter Laser and Spirit Stones. It's very condensed, but larger than I think it is.
We have the deployment for Dawn of War mission, Capture and Control. We've got one objective right there, and then the other is right there. For the first turn, mostly I just moved all of my army onto the table, moved my Dire Avengers back, turbo boosted with the Shining Spears, and the Warp Hunter managed to do a bit of damage to this unit, and we managed with combined fire from the Night Spinner, Fire Prism, and Shadow Specters to do a good amount of damage to this Dire Avenger unit, which is now in difficult and dangerous terrain, and it's on to Clay's turn 1.
So for my first turn, all my reserves came on, except for my Warp Spiders. They're going to be deep striking. I went forward and actually had a pretty successful shooting round. I thinned the ranks of the Shadow Specters. I took down a Howling Banshee. I thinned out the Fire Dragons. There are only 2 men left in that squad, and I took out a little under half of the Dire Avengers over there. All in all, for what I had at range, that was pretty successful shooting. And the next turn will begin.
Okay, this turn I moved the Dire Avengers backwards away from Clay and his insurmountable undead horde. I did kill off about half of it. I put the front unit in difficult, dangerous terrain. I managed to immobilize the Falcon and shake it so it can't shoot this turn. His Banshees are untouched. I managed to miss as far as I could possibly miss with the Fire Prism against these Dire Avengers, and my Banshees messed up on their fleet of foot, rolling only a 2, which left them directly in the open, ready to get shot up and chewed up by anything that cares to shoot at them. And my much diminished Shadow Spectre squad, they're the ones who managed to immobilize the Falcon, so at least they did something.
Bottom of turn 2, Dan's Shining Spears and Autarch made their move in the previous turn. They got shot and charged by Wraithguard and Uriel, who finished them off. Uriel took a wound in the ensuing melee, however, and I lost a couple of Wraithguard on the difficult, dangerous terrain test from the Night Spinner from the previous turn. The rest of my force moved up a bit. I took out a couple more Shadow Specters with my Scatter Laser on the Guardians. My Wraithlord failed to do anything to his Fire Prism, and I forgot to charge with my Dire Avengers and Asserman, so they're going to get the punched out of them. We'll see what happens.
We've got a Howling Banshee Exarch who is in combat with Asserman, and he just won combat all on his lonesome after the rest of his squad was killed off. Outside of that, the Fire Prism missed for the second round in a row. This time it did manage to hit a couple guys, though, just killing off two of the Guardians. Then, one of the Guardians, even better. I managed to knock the Pulse Laser off of this Falcon, so now it's sitting there with just a Scatter Laser and the Twin Link Shrieking Catapults. The Wraithguard squad here took the largest amount of damage. They're down to just two guys, Uriel and a Warlock, and they're in difficult and dangerous terrain. That Night Spinner's been helping me out a little bit, just slowing them down. And it's on to Clay's turn.
So at the bottom of turn 3, I remembered to deep strike my Warp Spiders and managed to take off the cannon on the Warp Hunter, but that's still intact otherwise. Asserman finished off the Banshee squad and is now relatively in the open, but that's alright. He's hopefully relatively invulnerable. I lost another Wraithguard thanks to dangerous terrain tests, and almost lost Uriel again. My Scatter Laser left on the Falcon took out a couple Striking Scorpions in a nice shooting round. My Banshees didn't quite make it to charge the Fire Dragons on difficult terrain tests. Neither did my Guardian Defenders to finish off the Shadow Specters. They took down one from the Shuriken Catapult shooting, however. My Wraithlord again failed to do anything to its tank target. And that is the extent of what I had left.
Right now we've got the Shadow Spectre Exarch locked in combat with the squad of Guardians. The Fire Prism did manage to kill a few Guardians, nothing much to speak of. I didn't put any wounds on Asserman firing two fire pikes at, or two fusion guns at him. The Warp Spiders passed their tank shock test. Banshees got hit by a Night Spinner, and then I managed to kill the the Warlock.
Alright, so we're at the bottom of turn 4 now. My Warp Spiders advanced, took out some Dire Avengers, and left back behind that little ledge there to spread out a little. My Banshees turned around and went the other way. They're headed towards the second objective now. Asserman's leading the charge. He finished out the Fire Dragons and left forward with his consolidation. Uriel is holding the remaining Wraithguard's hand and moving on the objective as well. Meanwhile, this is the worst combat we've ever seen in our existence. The Guardian Defenders failed to hit with any attacks. The Exarch hit once but failed to wound. They've been stuck in there for a turn now. My Wraithlord failed to do anything again to the Fire Prism. And that is about the extent of turn 4, onwards to 5.
Here at the top of 5, Clay has managed to finally beat the Exarch to death in what was probably the worst combat in 40k history. I managed to light up the Warp Spiders with some Dire Avenger fire and Striking Scorpion fire and the Night Spinner, and they broke and ran away, and they are unable to regroup. The Howling Banshee unit got hit by the Fire Prism, which finally got a direct hit. It wiped out the Exarch, or everything but the Exarch. And Uriel's Wraithguard buddies have all been killed off, so it's just him now.
Bottom of turn 5, this epic confrontation over here came to a head. All my units got into charge. My Banshee Exarch was the only one left of the Banshees. Failed to do anything to the
Scorpions.
Striking Scorpions, however, and just got beat down. Uriel, however, came in. He did exceptionally well with his rolling and managed to get in next to the Pathfinders. So he went in initiative and put down his Eye of Wrath and managed to take down one of the Striking Scorpions along with most of the Pathfinder squad. The rest of the squad, there's only one remaining, broke and ran. Asserman managed to make it into combat with the Dire Avengers. And the regulars managed to actually inflict a wound upon him. The only save I've had to make with him so far, I failed. Rolled a 1. and I managed to take the Exarch out. However, the other two remain, and it tied combat. So they remain in combat. My Warp Spiders continue their journey off the board, and my Guardian Defenders successfully are holding the other objective. My Wraith Lord, importantly, managed to shake the Fire Prism so it won't be able to fire next turn, if we have a next turn. So that is the conclusion, and we will roll and see whether or not we continue the game.
6, we do continue.
We continue.
With 2 characters pretty much wrecking my face for this game, at this point all I can do is draw because Asperman killed off the last of the Dire Avengers. He's about to kill off the Striking Scorpions in the next phase, and Uriel's hanging out over there too. The one thing I did manage to do is bring over 2 grav tanks, hopefully to contest this spot. The Guardians there got pinned by the Night Spinner, so the most the Wraithlord can do is kill one of the tanks in this turn. So I don't know of a way where Clay could actually prevent me from forcing a draw this turn, but I need the game to end on this turn to do that.
Bottom of turn 6. My Guardians managed to hang on from the previous round, and as you can see, they're short one man. That's because my Wraith Lord, in a fit of not being able to do anything for the earlier part of the game, charged the Warp Hunter, managed to score a couple 6s to hit, and rolled double 6s to penetrate for the hollow fields, so blew it up, which took out a Guardian. Thankfully, no morale test required. And on the other end, I finished off the Striking Scorpions with my 2 characters, so there is very little left to do. That is the end of turn 6.
Just roll. Ends on a 1, 2, or 3. 3! The game ends in a draw.
So I would have to say that most of my units carried themselves fairly well. My weak point this game, unusually, was the Wraith Guard, who got absolutely creamed towards the first half of the game. They hung on when things started to thin out. They were able to take the charge. The second squad was able to finish off the charge from the Shining Spears. However, the first squad I brought on did absolutely nothing other than get shot at. Very effectively, I might add. More effectively than usual. My Guardians managed to hold on and maintain their hold on that first objective that was mine, which I foolishly placed in the middle of the map as opposed to my end of the field. However, I wasn't able to carry the fight with my Dire Avengers or my Wraith Guard over to Dan's objective. So all I could do was wipe out everything there. Which my characters did rather effectively, I might add. I got more mileage out of Asperman and Uriel than I usually do. Uriel did quite well when he got in there, and he managed to stay alive until then. Asperman did pretty well in combat when he got into combat, which he usually does not do. However, I had more or less the same luck with armor saves. My luck was that I didn't need to make very many armor saves this game with Uriel. And in general, I suppose I got to make a fair amount of cover saves, but that was more or less business as usual. All in all, I'm pretty happy with things went. Any draw I can achieve where I force Dan to wildly throw his skimmers at my objective is a victory in my book, because I hate the 5th edition rules. In that you can contest objectives just by throwing units at them. So I'm going to claim a moral victory, and I would say that my most valuable unit was the Warp Spiders, despite the fact that a number of units did pretty well. The Warp Spiders were able to take out the cannon on the Warp Hunter in the turn that they deep struck in, which was immensely valuable. I suppose it was a stroke of good fortune that Dan's Nightwing got a deep strike mishap when it went under the corner of the table and it was counted as destroyed. I'm not sure how much of a difference that would have made, though, since it fell upon my characters to clear out his objective, and he probably would not have been shooting at the Guardian Defenders with the Nightwing. But who knows? Either way, I'm pretty satisfied.
I think for the most part, Clay actually said a lot of the same things that I think. Really, I did a ton of damage to him early, but even that I just couldn't do enough damage to really take on stopped them from eventually getting Uriel, who was really damaging to me, into my deployment zone. Asperman also got there, although a lot of that came from the help of a charge where he wiped out fire dragons and then got a 6 after that. It got him into combat a whole turn earlier than I was really expecting in my back lines. And I didn't really account for that very well. Clay didn't just weather the storm, he also pushed me to a point where I had to play with desperation, moving the tanks to claim spots, like he was saying. Really what that means is that I just didn't have enough troops for this game because I had just no way to even really claim or fight for my own. I was trying a different type list, and I actually thought the list worked really well together. I wouldn't mind trying it again to see if I could get a better hang of it with practice. It's essentially just aspects backed up by a couple heavy hitters. The Nightwing, I don't think it would have made much of a difference had it stayed. That's probably why I used it so aggressively. It wasn't really a trick to try.
It's tank hunter.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to just sort of win the game. I was just trying to sort of have fun with it because it really didn't have a lot of targets, and I just don't think it would have helped me, suddenly spontaneously win against the force he had. I honestly think he would have shot it down really easily, especially with how well he was hitting with his scatter lasers. I think they would have knocked that sucker right out of the sky. But the match for me, the Night Spinner. That sucker slowed down his force a lot, and I actually thought I was going to hold off his waves of undead Eldar because of it. As much damage as the Warp Hunter did early, I think it was really the Night Spinner.
You're about 150 points of just failing dangerous terrain tests.
Yeah, and that, you don't realize how devastating it is until you have a foot force trying to move with that, slowing them down.